Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our final session of today's Training Industry Leader Talk Sales Enablement Strategies for Long-Term Success, sponsored by Adobe, CGS Immersive, Force Management, Info Pro Learning, and Integrity Solutions. I would love to know how many of you have attended 5 or 4 sessions today. You can comment your favorite emoji below. And if that is you, you are a superstar, and we are lucky to have you. And if this is your first session, it is still a pleasure. I am Liz Spate, the Events Marketing Specialist here at Training Industry, and it's thrilled to have you with here today. Before we get started, I would like to quickly go over a few housekeeping items to help you interact with our speaker and get the most out of today's program. So please feel free to use that chat window to comment if you've been all 4 or 5 sessions, but also to submit questions as well. This is going to be a very interactive and fun session, so please plug those questions away throughout. And at the end of your time here with us, you will notice a short evaluation survey. We appreciate your thoughts on today's event, and all of our sessions are being recorded and archived on trainingindustry.com, and you will receive a follow-up email from us that will include the link to the on-demand session for you to share with your team. If this is your first Training Industry event, we would love to welcome you. We exist to make connections among learning and development professionals, and we offer tons of resources to support your role in L&D, like live events like today's Leader Talk, as well as through articles on our website, our magazine, conferences, research reports, and our podcast. We would also love to hear about what you learned from today's session on social media, so please follow us on your favorite platforms for us to continue the conversation. And without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our final speakers of the day. Dan Rust is the head of InfoPro Learning's leadership and organizational development practice. He has more than 30 years of experience in helping organizational leaders navigate what is often the truest test of the leadership capabilities, leading others through the most challenging and uncertain times. Nolan Howe is a dynamic leader in the learning and development industry, currently serving as the Senior Vice President of Growth at InfoPro Learning, where he helps drive the company's vision of becoming the foremost talent development partner for global brands. And Nolan has rapidly ascended through various roles, leveraging his entrepreneurial spirit and leadership abilities to transform teams and drive significant growth. And with that, gentlemen, take it away.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Liz. Let's make sure the camera pops on. Excellent. And I want to mention one more thing about Nolan. If you have not subscribed to Nolan's Leadership and Development podcast, because most of you logging in, I would say maybe all of you logging into this session are in the learning and development space. I think you would find it a very regularly informative and interesting and entertaining podcast. So an unsolicited recommendation, Nolan. I know we hadn't planned on that, but I do think it is interesting. And it's a happy podcast. It's a fun, positive, upbeat podcast. And we are right now, we've entered times where it's maybe not always easy to find things that are upbeat. In fact, starting back in March, because we deal with a lot of sales organizations, a lot of sales leaders, a lot of organizational leaders. Some have sales responsibility, others not so much. And I know that we started hearing and seeing a shift in mindsets back in about in February, March. I think in March of this year it became, distinctly noticeable. There was a bit of a gloom and doom mentality, and we started seeing it in salespeople that were reporting to these leaders. And I saw a couple of distinct trends. I would kind of put the sales leaders into 3 different categories in terms of how they were typically reacting. Everyone was trying to figure out, well, what's the right thing to do? Like and what everyone seemed to be saying is, all right, I have to figure out what does the future hold? Where are tariffs going to go? Where are interest rates going to go? Where are our clients going to go? What are our clients going to do? And of course, there weren't any answers. And to a large degree, there still aren't answers. We have opinions, lots and lots. That's the beauty of our social media environment. There is no shortage of opinions. and you will find people validating any particular outcome that you're looking for. And in fact, you'll find people telling you that it's about to get better. It's just about to get better. So just hold on. Give it a couple more weeks. Give it another month. And the reality is we don't know, and we shouldn't persuade ourselves that we do know. What we find is that some sales leaders get very problem solving oriented. I'm going to figure out where things are going and I'm going to build the exact right strategy based upon what I see the future holding. Others get, let me just say, intense. They say to their teams, okay, we just got to hunker down and we have to do more. Basically, they stick to the plan, but they intensify the plan. We're going to make more calls. We're going to do more inbound, whatever, more outbound, whatever. We're going to do more, more, more. And they get frustrated when they don't feel like their teams are producing the results that they were hoping for. And then what we see from salespeople, either overtly, but most of the time it's masked. So most of the time, salespeople, because they're people, because they report to their sales leaders and sales managers, most of the time they'll put on a pretty happy mask. But when you talk to them one-on-one, they're pretty worried and anxious, and that anxiety tends to produce passivity. It's not that they're not working. Of course, they're working, but in terms of higher level thinking, higher level creativity, higher level innovation, that real energy that you get from someone who's about to go out and attack the market, a lot of that goes away because, or it's at least it's been being hidden or dampened by the stress and the anxiety. So as we were putting this session together, and I was asking myself, what do people really need right now? Because we're coming at the end of a day where there have been 4 other sessions on sales enablement. Great programs. I listened to all of them. They're great programs. Lots of good feedback from all of them. Lots of tips and helpful suggestions. But I was thinking, okay, in my time, I spent over a decade working for General Electric as GE's commercial learning leader. Spent the last 5 years working for Info Pro Learning, helping a variety of sales organizations. And what do I feel sales leaders, sales people, sales enablement professionals, what would they benefit from us today, now? And I think what we can do is give you a bit of guidance on how to innovate your way either through a sales downturn or out of a sales downturn. You don't need our guidance on how to maximize, how to get your sales reps to leverage Salesforce, or how to do all the other traditional sales enablement functions more effectively. You've received all of that through today. So we're going to start with this guidance, and it's the guidance to be the ball. And I'm going to look on the chat because I want to know, does anyone on the chat know where this reference "be the ball," where it first sprang up in our broad culture? I have to find the chat, and let's just see if anybody gets. I'm going to give you a minute, a second. Anybody? Bueller, not Happy Gilmore, although that's a great guess. You should get half a point for the guess. Thinking.
Is it Tin Cup? I don't think I
No,
know.
but you're so, yes,
Is it
Caddyshack.
Caddyshack?
Thank
Okay,
you.
that was my third guess.
Sarah
Okay.
Owens and Mike Parker. Thank you. Yes, it is Caddyshack.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm like dating myself, but it was Caddyshack. And now the reason this phrase is relevant to us today, because the essence of the meaning behind "be the ball" is embrace the moment. And what I mean by embrace this moment is take a breath, spend some time, slow down, really think your way through and feel your way through what does it mean in terms of this economic uncertainty and economic downturn? How is it impacting the behaviors and actions of your customers, of your customers? How is it impacting the behavior and actions of yourself, of your teams? Taking the time to sit with it is much more likely to drive you towards some degree of creative thinking or innovative thinking or just more productive thinking. If instead you leap into stress or anxiety, what you'll tend to do is you'll either fight, it'll be either fight or flight. It'll be fight where, all right, I'm gonna hunker down, I'm gonna drill down, and I'm gonna do what I would have done anyway, but I'm just gonna do it with more intensity. Or flight. I'm gonna find a different job. I'm gonna go to LinkedIn. I'm gonna look for something else. And then for some unfortunate souls, they do both. They fight, they hunker down, and they flee at the same time. So I would just say take a moment to be fully present and to understand that any economic uncertainty, any downturn, it does present, and these aren't just words on a Hallmark card. It does present opportunities, but the opportunities are pretty subtle, and you generally have to take the time to discern what those opportunities might be. They might be actual sales opportunities, they might be skill development opportunities, they might be other opportunities within your business, but it takes time. And so I would just encourage you to take a moment, spend time each day, each morning, being one with the downturn and understanding the downturn, and then also recognizing that there are some things within your control. There are a broad range of things outside of your control. So I wouldn't focus too much on where interest rates are going, where tariffs are. I mean, you should be informed. You should know these things, but don't let them consume your energy, because if they do consume your energy, then you won't be thinking, all right, what's the next out of the box idea? What's the next thing we could try? What is something that none of my competitors are thinking of that could actually make a difference? You won't have the mental energy to devote to that. So what is in your control? Your own focus, your own mindset, your level of activity. You can control your level of activity, your creativity, your innovation, the quality of your outreach. That's definitely within your control. Or whether it's your outreach or the outreach of your sales reps, if you're a sales manager or in sales enablement. But the quality of that outreach, and I would say, I'm going to make a point here, you have to work with your sales reps to coach them to not communicate desperation, to not communicate stress or tension. It's very subtle, but your clients can smell it. They can smell it when there's fear, or when there's desperation, or when the salesperson needs the sale a little too much, needs the engagement a little too much. That's probably the one area of coaching I would recommend that you do, is help your sales reps understand how to engage with customers and not put out that smell of fear, so to speak. So with that, I would just say, be the ball is really meant to, it's meant to describe being a little more calmly at peace with the downturn, but not peace in a passive way. Not, hey, I'm at peace with it. We'll just wait to see whatever happens, happens. But it be at peace in order to drive creative and innovative energy. So that's principle number one. Number two is the principle of starting sooner, meaning whatever ideas you might have in this particular environment, whatever ideas you have, you should try them. You should start before you're ready, start before you're prepared. Don't wait. And you have a new product that is, I'll use the phrase, maybe half baked or 2/3 baked. It's really not quite ready. You know what? Go figure out what your go-to-market strategy is, or you have an idea for lead generation, or whatever ideas you might have in our particular economic time right now. I talk to a lot of people who tell me, hey, things aren't great, but they're not as bad as they could be. What we're concerned about is the next quarter. We're concerned about and we don't know. We don't know if things are going to turn up or down. So, but then in the way they express it, what they're saying is, so we're waiting to see. And that mindset, well, I'm waiting to see, I would just advocate, start now. Assume the worst, and you might be proven wrong. You may remember there was a book, again, I'm dating myself, called Only the Paranoid Survive. And that book is, it was written by, his first name is Andy, can't remember the second. He was the CEO of, it'll come to me in a moment. But that book was a fantastic book where he said to himself the way he leads is he takes on the paranoia for his people. So even in good times, even in fantastic times, he's the paranoia eater. He's taking it in because he's the one who's going to be more worried about what's coming up than anybody else. And so in this case, I would say whatever you're thinking of doing or planning to do, start sooner, do it now, plan for it now, take action now, because that action that you take becomes a feedback loop. You take that action, you end up learning from whatever that action is. It produces intended results or it doesn't produce intended results. But if you just sit, you're not going to be getting any feedback. So so start sooner. And I know I'm talking fast, Nolan. I don't mean to
Well, interesting. So somewhat connected. So Andy Grove is
Yes.
I guess I had never heard him called Andrew. So Andy Grove is the CEO of Intel, was the CEO of Intel. And what's interesting about the start sooner kind of thing is he really pioneered, I don't know if you knew this, Dan, he pioneered OKRs. So objectives and key results. And his big philosophy was, choose a limited number of things that you can make an impact on.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you can measure them, but then just get them done. Like it was very much like, just like you said, a big part of that philosophy is everything should be time bound and it should be started and finished and have a beginning and end date. So yes, I haven't read that book, but a lot of his stuff that I've put out on OKRs is really phenomenal.
I think I call him Andy Grove because he and I were tight. We're tight like this.
It's Mr. Grove to me, I guess.
Yeah.
You call
So,
him Andrew.
the next principle, broadly speaking, is to experiment faster. Not just experiment, but try things and try them faster. Because again, you're going to get feedback in those things that you try, and But if you think when I talk to some of our clients who are trying new things, the most effective of them, they have lots of experiments going on at any given time. They're trying new things in terms of outreach. They're trying new things in terms of marketing. They're trying new things in terms of leveraging AI. They're trying new things in terms of training. They're trying new value proposition messaging. They get lots of experiments happening because again, they're getting feedback from those experiments, and some are going to work out, some not so much. And I know one thing that you've been working on, Nolan, with our internal technology team is an AI sales coach. And I would love it if you could give us a little demo of that AI sales coach, because I think it's a great example of just trying something new and seeing, what kind of results it produces.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dan. And so I'll kind of talk over this, but to set this screen here, and I hope everyone can see my screen. Just to set
Yes.
this the scene, InfoPro started investing in AI about 2.5 years ago. And we created a series of tools that do a series of different things. So one of our tools is like a structured guide. And we've created a structured guide for many things. It started off internally with a structured guide to how to create learning development programs. So you kind of load in all your knowledge and it says, I want to create an e-learning kind of step by step. But we then pivoted it and did one for sales as well. So what I'm going to showcase here is this agent essentially that's going to show ways that we can interact and use AI. So this agent, you can see, I said I need a sales call prep. I said I'm meeting with this guy Jim Box at Cisco. Can you share some call notes? So what it's going to do is it's going to say, yeah, great. Like here's what you should do. This is what your agenda should be. Here's your key questions and your value propositions. But maybe I want a little bit more. Maybe I want to ask them, can you help me draft an email that I can send to this person ahead of time that gives a high level overview of what we do at InfoPro Learning? And as you can see, what it's going to do, it's actually going to pull information. And that's really a cool thing about the sales tool that we created is it has all of your information loaded into it. So it's not just going to create some, email as if I went to ChatGPT or something like that. It's going to be very much focused on that initiative. Likewise, maybe I need some help drafting an email. I had a great meeting, but as happens very much to your salespeople, you get ghosted, right? We're talking about some things. The second you share pricing, nobody responds. And you can see here, that's kind of what I said. And they gave me a couple options. They said, you should write an email and follow this AIDA, which is attention, interest, desire, action model. But I'm kind of a lazy person. I just want it to write the email for me. So I'm going to, first I'm going to ask it, to make it a little bit more pushy. And then I'm going to ask it to write the email for me. And so what it's going to do is it's going to say something like, I know we talked about it. I invest, given the competitive landscape, now is the perfect time. Delaying this decision could be missing out on valuable opportunities. So again, it's kind of giving me some ideas that maybe wouldn't come directly to my mind. And at the end, I ask it something cheeky and I say, can you tell me a story that talks just and acknowledges that Jim's been ghosting me. So it says, I'm starting to think I might need to call the Ghostbusters since I haven't heard from you in a while. Um, uh, we also have the ability to ask unstructured questions, right? We face this all the time in sales training. Product knowledge becomes really critical, especially those that have lots of products and they're very complicated. This is a really cool tool we developed. It pulls in all of your product catalog. We said, can you tell me a little bit about what this product is? So it can give you an overview. Can it draft some questions so I can see if somebody's interested, right? Like, what are the cues? What are the things that I might need to listen to? And then it goes on and you can even ask it pricing questions. This isn't, not everybody always wants to expose pricing, but hey, if you want to just get a list of, hey, what is the price for this unit? I'm on the phone with the customer. I just like to give them a quick overview. There you are. But it's much more than just kind of ask a question, get an answer. It also has the ability to be a sales coach, which we've understood is incredibly critical. And I'm going to let this kind of play through. You can read along, but I don't want to take up too much time. One of the big things that we heard is that coaching and sales coaching in particular, the time for that has just gone down significantly. So we wanted to create a tool that allows people to kind of coach themselves. So here what I'm doing is I'm saying I'm struggling with sales. I seem to lack creating a sense of urgency. What are some things that I can do that helps me create a sense of urgency? And it's going to say, well, here's some different things that you can do. Now, maybe I don't really know what I need to do. So I'm going to say, can you actually shoot me an email? Give me an idea of what a sense of urgency might look like. You can see timeline for moving forward is critical to align with your desired state. I would need the decision by this date. So again, it's kind of shifting a little bit of that burden away from the sales manager who's already being asked to do more with less, and empowers the person who actually is the one dealing with it. And what we're finding is that actually removes a lot of barriers to traditional coaching, right? Salespeople are pretty competitive and, they kind of are lone wolves. Maybe they don't want to ask anybody for help. So really cool. We also can do sales manager coaching here, right? So I can just ask it, someone on my team is missing their quota. I need to have a conversation with them about it. And it's actually gonna, and a key differentiator I want to show is that it's reading what I'm looking for, and it's gonna say, okay, I'm not just gonna answer with an email. Like, I'm not just gonna give them that email because then they're not gonna be coached. Like, yeah, if they just want the price, maybe I'll expose that. But I can see this person's trying to develop themselves. So I'm gonna prod a little bit more. I'm going to ask them some questions. I'm going to say, well, what would your next step be here? So that this bot is really engaging like a real life coach would. Again, not just giving the answer, but giving me the ability to talk. And then it's going to think about my answer and then answer again. What do you think? How would you approach this conversation? I put in here, and the last demo I want to show, we'll have to get the audio. I don't know if I'll see if I can play audio, because we also realize that salespeople are really, really short on time and they're on the road a lot, maybe not in front of their computer. So we created a coach that can talk back and forth to you so that maybe you want a little bit of coaching on the way. Maybe you're heading to a client and you want to get some last minute information. Can you hear this?
I cannot hear that.
Okay. Let's see this.
Ask for a raise when our company is struggling.
Could you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So let's start it over again.
Hi, I am Guru. How can I assist you today?
Can I ask for a raise when our company is struggling?
Asking for a raise when the company is struggling can be a sensitive issue. It's important to assess the overall financial health of the company and consider the current economic climate before making such a request. Before approaching your manager for a raise, consider the following. 1. Understand the company's financial situation.
And then I'll ask it another question just so you can get a sense of it.
Great. If I'm in sales, is it okay to ask for a raise based off of my sales performance?
Absolutely. In the sales industry, it's common to tie compensation to performance. If you have consistently exceeded your sales targets and brought in significant revenue for the company, it's certainly reasonable to ask for a raise based on your sales performance. When make
So, and spirit of, kind of combining a couple of things that Dan was talking about, I did want to share a couple of these examples, just for some information on our side. This is one of those things that we turned on internally. We wanted to test, as Dan said, kind of get something out there, give it a go, see what happens. And we've seen remarkable feedback so far from our sales reps. If anybody is interested in learning more about the product or whatever, let me know, make a message in the chat. We'll give you options to see more, demo it yourself. We can load in your content and we can show you what it can do. Thanks.
So Nolan, what if they're interested in the product, but they'd like it to be customized so that the answer to the question, can a sales rep ask for a raise under these kinds of circumstances? So that the answer is no.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your request has been duly noted.
Yeah. That is a good point. We actually do train it quite a bit for questions to answer, questions not to answer. And the other cool thing is we can actually load in whatever sales training program you use, right? If you're a challenger sale company, you want to have that be your basis of truth, we can do that too. So lots of cool things, including what Dan mentioned.
I want to go back to one quick thing. Under Start Sooner, the other great opportunity when it comes to starting sooner is that when things are just starting to look like they might be uncertain, when you're in the early stages of a downturn, you tend to have more resources. You have time, you have budget, you have flexibility. If you wait until things are crashing and burning, generally, yes, you have the intensity to drive action, but suddenly you have no budget or you have no time. So again, that's the spirit behind the recommendation to start sooner. The next principle for innovating through a sales downturn is to rock the boat. Your instinct is going to be just the opposite, or for many people, the instinct is going to be the opposite. Don't make waves when times are troubled. But in fact, this can be the most opportune time to try some really wild and crazy things, to shake things up, to ask the hard questions like, hey, because we've gone to market this way for the last 20 years, is this the way we should be going to market? Just because we've done this way, are there other ways that we might be doing some of our critical functions? So challenging some of your sacred sales assumptions, being willing to ask the uncomfortable questions or say the uncomfortable things. Honestly, this is the time when your organization needs it. Even if the answer is, hey, interesting thought, but no, that's fine. That's fine. It's important, though, that you're willing to bring these things up. You might want to flip the script on some of your customers. Again, I don't want to define for any of you exactly what you should be doing because it's going to be different in every circumstance. But encouraging rule breaking, I had a situation just last week where we had a particular product that's in development and is not really ready for prime time. It's not really ready to market, but a sales rep reached out to me because he had a client who he felt there was a very relevant need. And normally the rules would say, you know what, duly noted, let's check in with each other in 3 months. And instead, we decided we're going to rock the boat. And in fact, we're going to rock the boat by being transparent with the client. We're going to say, hey, look, we've been working on something that is very much in alignment with your needs. It's only partially done. Let's open up the cupboard doors. Let's share it with you and see, maybe there's a there. So again, not something we would normally ever consider doing. Next principle is sorry, I clicked on the wrong document. So the next principle is to stretch your mental boundaries. And what I mean by that is in a downturn, the rules do change. The biggest obstacle to your success, oftentimes it's your mental rigidity. And so this may feel similar to rock the boat, and I suppose it is. It's adjacent to rock the boat. But think through your own mental rigidity, what assumptions are you making in terms of the way things are done, the way things happen, the way things have been, what makes sense, even your own assumptions about what is logical. Stress tends to shrink creativity. Depression tends to shrink creativity. So what I'm encouraging you to do is to step back, take a breath, and ask yourself the kinds of questions that'll think outside of the box, sometimes dramatically outside of the box. I don't know if does that prompt any thoughts from you, Nolan?
Yeah, I mean, I it seems I had a really good friend actually who managed a sales team. Oddly enough, that's the example that it came to mind. But he said, when I'm talking to people that are going through like today, I ask, what haven't you tried yet?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm assuming you've done what you're supposed to do. I'm assuming that you're doing the follow-ups and the what's and the this and that. But I realized by asking, well, what haven't you done? What haven't you tried? It's just a different perspective to put your mind into it. So if you're kind of struggling with, how do I kind of get that? Think of, well, what haven't I done? And sometimes that will lead you maybe to that answer.
Absolutely. And also by bringing in more minds into the
Yeah.
mix. So involving your salespeople, but beyond salespeople, involving your organization. And sometimes we can get balkanized where, okay, the marketing folks focus on marketing, the sales enablement folks focus on sales enablement. Everybody does their thing. That's perfectly fine. But sometimes during times like this, it is very beneficial to open up and just say, hey, here are the challenges we're facing. Here is what's going on, and we're just open to thoughts. We're open to ideas. Now you will get reasonable ideas and you will get unreasonable ideas, and that's okay. Now, when things are going well, sometimes we don't even want to hear the unreasonable ideas. But I think the more you get exposed to people's unreasonable ideas, and I would say be cautious before you quickly discount them. I know one of my tendencies is my younger employees, they tend to have ideas that I would perceive as that's cool if we had an unlimited budget. That's cool if we had the time to. I find myself, if I'm not conscious of it, quickly editing and saying, "All right, that's interesting. Maybe there'll be a time when we can try that." And I've tried to catch myself because I end up killing those little ideas before they even have a chance to take root. So when the ideas start to come from different places, give them a little bit of time to germinate. Give them some time to grow. And it may not be the exact execution that that person had proposed, but maybe there's an intent behind that suggestion and you can speak to that. So asking yourself better questions, asking others better questions, challenging any of your assumptions about how things have been, how things need to be. And in fact, we've got a couple of clients who have formalized this where they bring essentially SWAT teams together, teams of different thinkers together. So they'll put 8 people in a room who they've identified as being very different in terms of thought process, very different in terms of background, and they will give them story problems to solve and ask them just to brainstorm solutions. And they know within that group, they've got cynics, they've got optimists, they've got pessimists, they've got neurotypical thinkers, they've got non-neurotypical thinkers, they got a wide variety. And in fact, if those folks come out of a meeting with 1 or 2 good workable ideas, it's probably time very well spent. So stretch mental boundaries. The next principle, as we enter a time of scarcity where budgets are starting to be constrained, resources are starting to be constrained. Sometimes there are opportunities to leverage that scarcity. Sometimes, and if you think back in your own life, sometimes back in your times of scarcity, you figured out how to MacGyver stuff. Yeah, again, I'm sorry, another TV and film reference, but MacGyver, for those of you who don't know, he was a guy who managed with duct tape and a paper clip. He could fix just about anything, and he could solve just about any problem with just a few tools.
He's kind of like a Mission Impossible, but the opposite, because what's his name? I forget, what is his name? Ethan Hunt has access to everything. So he's kind of like the opposite but think of that without any technology, and there's MacGyver for you.
If Ethan Hunt opened up the briefcase and there was a paper clip and a stamp and a piece of string, and that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And and some there was always duct tape. I mean,
Duct
MacGyver
tape
got a
was
lot of
key.
use out of duct tape.
Is key.
So sometimes times of scarcity can actually drive us toward creativity. But I wanted to give you one, just really, this is an example that really struck home with me. The Harley Davidson Company spent over 20 years developing an electric bike. This is not the Harley Davidson bike. Over the course of 20 years, they invested over $100 million in the development of their electric motorcycle. At the same time, or about the same time, there was a gentleman in Brooklyn who worked in a motorcycle shop, but he had a dream and he wanted to build an electric motorcycle, and so he began working on something just in his shop, and he had little or no budget, but he started reaching out to manufacturers, uh, asking for contributions, asking for, hey, I'm looking for a wheel that'll do this, or an axle that'll do this, or some other particular component. But he began assembling a bike himself, and he was actually able to create two working prototypes at the same time that Harley was working on their $100 million plus investment. For less than $50,000, he produced a beautiful working prototype. He produced two prototypes. Those prototypes were enough for him to get funding for manufacturing. So today, if you go to most motorcycle distributors, you can find this brand of bike. It's the Luna bike. I think the brand name is Terraform. It's available. It has a widely enthusiastic following, and you cannot find a Harley electrical bike, even though Harley did ultimately produce an electric motorcycle. Because of their cost of production, they were not able to make a profit on their motorcycle. It was a beautiful bicycle. They had a couple of manufacturing issues, and it didn't take much for Harley just to decide, we're going to pull this because we can't. So $100 million wasted, $50,000 actually produced a marketable bike that exists today and has a hugely enthusiastic following. So I like that story because sometimes under the pressure of scarcity, we find our way to doing things that we wouldn't do otherwise. So again, if you change your mindset around scarcity, it can sometimes lead you to new or different outcomes. Final 2 points that I want to make for this particular session. Sometimes we forget that even though times are tight and budgets might be constrained, there's still value in delighting and surprising our customers and our prospects. We may not be able to spend as much as we might have spent in previous years, but there is a greater impact when you go out of your way to do something that surprises your customer, that delights them, that does something for them that you wouldn't have expected. I'll give you one quick example. In our business, because we develop and deliver a broad range of training programs. Any of our programs someone attends, the client organization has the option to purchase digital badges, but it's at an additional cost. So if you have 300 people who've gone through a training program and you want to give them a digital badge, it's going to be an additional cost. We decided recently that we were just going to give those away. We were going to reduce that additional cost again. So we were able to actually reach out to all of our clients and say, hey, if you would like, we can provide a digital badge to every one of your participants. No administrative costs, no nothing. Now, not all of them took us up on it because for not all of them is it a critical benefit, but for some of them it was absolutely something that they were interested in doing so that they could do something for their participants. A little thing, but with an outsized impact, because again, we all know that times are getting a bit tighter. So even sometimes doing little things will have a bigger impact today than it might have had when things were all sweetness and light. Last point. Of course, it's important to bounce back. But in today's world, it's important to bounce back quickly. You don't have 3 weeks to recover. You don't have a month to recover. That experiment that you were trying that turned out not to do any good, hey, learn from it, absorb it, and move on to the next, whatever the next is. So it's important that we bounce back and bounce back and bounce back. And we don't expect that it's just going to be one single wave that's pounding at us. It's going to be a series of waves coming at us for some time. Now, we might get surprised. We absolutely might get surprised, and it turns out that at the end of the next quarter, everything turns around and life is all sweetness again. But I'd rather plan for a more long-term challenge, and then so as the challenges come to us, we bounce back quickly and we try again and again and again. I think that's the key to ultimate success, whatever it is that we're trying or experiencing in this market. So with that. Um, uh, Here are all of these principles listed on a single slide, and we can certainly provide this as a document afterwards for anyone who wants the show notes. I'm happy to provide the show notes to them. Does that prompt any questions? I should look at the Q&A and see if there are any comments or questions.
It's mostly just me making jokes
Ah.
so far, but we'll go. But what would be interesting, and I know we're kind of, I know those that have been on from the beginning are at a long end of their day, especially on the East Coast. Would love to just understand of these ones, what resonated with you the most. Like, so maybe you can say like, hey, this one resonated with me the most. And then maybe which one resonated the least. And maybe Dan, you have one. I mean, although you created it, not to say the least means it sucks, but it means the least for you. Like so for me, as an example, bounce back resonated the least, honestly, just because I feel like I've been bouncing back for 5 years, and it's like, how much bounce back do I got left? I am that rubber band that has been stretched, and I have no elasticity left. So I'm like, I'll show you where you can bounce this back. So that that one may be the least, but the most, I would say, absolutely, is like the start sooner, experiment faster for me. I feel like, from what we're seeing with all this change, it is those that are doing the things that are making the progress. It's not those that are sitting back that are doing the thing. Like, the long game doesn't really seem to be working anymore, because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of long range planning, a lot of long range whatever. So for me, those are the kind of my big takeaway, than the one that I might store in the back of my mind for later.
I would advocate for be the ball, and it might be a little counterintuitive to be like the most important of these, but when I have talked to some of our clients who really do seem to have their head in the game in a productive way, there's just a certain mindset where you don't feel, I mean, they may be experiencing, financial challenges, but they don't have that anxious mindset. It is more of a, hey, we see what's happening. We have a perspective on where we think things are going. We also aren't sure. And we have a perspective on that uncertainty. Like, what do you do when you just don't know? Are things going to go in this direction or this direction? And so we have a plan around that uncertain future and that uncertain environment, and being able to have that mindset of calmness, assuredness. It's not a lack of pain. They experience the same pain that everyone else does. I think that then naturally leads to more of a willingness to start sooner, experiment faster. I think almost all of the positive things spring from that original mindset. Um, but then again, I think experiment faster also is, um, someone said to me, we never have fewer than 3 experiments happening because we found that if we only have one, people depend too much on that one. It's like, oh, this is what's going to save us. So he said, look, we like to have 3, 4, 5 things going on, because then we're not dependent on any particular thing working out. It puts less pressure on the team, people are willing to open up and communicate more authentically and transparently about what's not working as well as what's working. And I realize now we are right at the 45-minute mark. So I think, Liz, this is when you had instructed me,
Yeah.
I must stop.
Yeah.
Yes, gentlemen. No, that was a really great session. A lot of philosophy, very refreshing after a long 5 sessions. So thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to say with the audience today before we say our goodbyes?
Well, I will say, we do feel your pain, even through the levity. We feel your pain. And I know you can connect with Nolan and myself on LinkedIn, through podcasts. Don't be a stranger. Happy to stay connected for whatever purpose or no purpose, just to stay connected.
Just to talk about movie references.
Yeah.
Yes, because they seem to spring up. Yes.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, gentlemen. No, this was a great way to end the day. So thank you so much. I'm going to steal the screen and do a couple more shout outs for my pals who are here still. So thank you so much. And again, thank you to all of our dynamic speakers and sponsors today. We had Adobe, CGS Immersive, Force Management, InfoPro Learning, and Integrity Solutions. And so all of our sessions today are pre-qualified for a credit hour by SHRM, HRCI, ISPI, and CPTM. So you can send an email to me or anyone on the TI team, and we will give you those codes. Additionally, I would love to see you all here in Milwaukee this fall for the 2025 Training Industry Strategy Summit. Collaborate with your peers, industry experts, thought leaders as you build, refine, and future-proof your organizational learning strategies. This is more than a conference. It is a working session for learning leaders who want to align learning with business outcomes. So we do have early bird savings until July 31st. So you can learn more at summit.trainingindustry.com. And additionally, the ability to optimize learning analytics processes is becoming an increasingly in-demand skill for learning professionals, but it does not have to be intimidating. You can learn to integrate, define, and interpret learning analytics with the Learning Analytics Workshop here at TI. And lastly, that survey should have popped open another tab in your browser, and we would greatly welcome your feedback. Thank you all for joining us today. Until next time, I am Liz, and I hope you all have a wonderful day and a wonderful week, and I will see you all soon. Bye, everybody.